Sometimes, the smallest detail can change everything. A crime scene can be brutal, ugly, horrifying. But when something strange and unexplained is left behind, it crosses into legend. And that's what happened in Hangzhou in 2013. A murder case that should have been straightforward became infamous online because of 3 simple objects: a handful of playing cards. Cards that seem like a message from the dead or the killer. On the morning of March 15th, 2013, an elderly scavenger in Hangzhou was collecting scraps along the Century Avenue. He spotted a large cardboard box abandoned near Lingshu village. At first, it was nothing unusual, until he noticed blood seeping through the bottom. Frightened, he called over a street cleaner. Together, they pried it open. Inside was a human body. The police arrived quickly, and the body belonged to a young woman, badly scarred, and was confirmed dead for several days, sometime around March 10th. It was very clearly a homicide. She had been beaten, bound, and stuffed into the box. But investigators found something else. 3 playing cards inside with her body. The 5 of spades, the Jack of diamonds, and the King of spades. And the cards didn't match the brutality of the scene. They looked like they were placed there on purpose. Police checked local missing persons, and nothing matched. So they released photos of the victim's clothing, her tattoos, and the 3 cards online. And that's when the case exploded across Chinese forums. Netizens dissected every clue. Some said KJ5 meant help me. Others thought it was a license plate code. And some even speculated the letters matched the killer's initials. The cards turned a murder into a mystery that felt coded, symbolic, and almost cinematic. But for the detectives, the problem was simpler. They didn't know who she even was. But people online refused to let it go. People tracked down the shops that sold her clothing. Tattoo enthusiasts searched archives for the same design. And others compared her photo to the missing person notices. And while most of it led to nowhere, it kept the case alive in the public eye. And finally, one tip changed everything. On April 10th, nearly a month later, a Hangzhou resident reported that they have seen a woman before, living in the Lianming community in Yuhang. Police canvassed the neighborhood. A supermarket owner remembered something odd. A slightly overweight man, about 170 centimeters tall, buying 2 rolls of thick, transparent tape. The same kind of tape used to bind a body. And security cameras confirmed his identity. His name was He, and neighbors said the victim was his girlfriend. When police tracked him down at a garment factory, he confessed. He and the victim, later identified as Ching, had been dating since December of 2012. But he was very jealous. He saw her chatting with another man online, He demanded her to stop, and when she refused, his anger boiled over. And on March 10th, he snapped. He strangled her, taped her body, stuffed her into a box, and dumped it on the roadside. And when detectives pressed him on the cards, he said he had no idea. He says that in the struggle, he must have knocked over a drawer, and the cards must have fallen out and gotten mixed into the box. It's a very mundane explanation, but by the time he confessed, the internet had already transformed the cards into myth, turning a simple domestic killing into one of the eeriest modern cases in China. And in the end, the truth was ugly, a crime of jealousy, a woman's life taken by someone she trusted. And what's weird is, what people remember isn't just the crime, it's the cards. Because just 3 meaningless scraps of paper created a story that lived far longer than the case itself. Dreams are supposed to be harmless, fleeting fragments of our subconscious. But what if a dream could lead police to a hidden corpse? 2008, in a small town in Jilin province. That's exactly what happened. A man went missing. His bloody shirt was found. And then his sister had a dream that told her exactly where to find his body. Our story begins with Zhang Yongchen, a merchant who lived in Shanghai City. He was well-liked, a friendly man who bought and sold mountain products. And on June 11th, 2008, after helping his neighbor and business partner, Liu Xiaolin, organize goods, he left her house at around 10 p.m. wearing a camouflage jacket. He only had a 1 minute's walk to reach his home, but he never made it back. Days passed, and no one saw him again. A week later, villagers discovered something strange. A camouflage shirt hidden at the bottom of a firewood pile, and it was soaked in blood. Police confirmed it was Zhang Yongchen's. But strangely, there was a round hole in the chest. Not a cut, but something more brutal. And scattered around the fabric were stubbles of hair. Investigators knew immediately this wasn't an accident. This was a murder. As police combed the village, they noticed a mound of sand between Liu Xiaolin's house and Shang's. Flies buzzed aggressively over the surface. When officers dug beneath, they found dark stains, blood, seeping into the earth. Neighbors also report hearing loud noises near that sand pile on June 11th, the very night Zhang vanished. And clearly, something violent had happened here, but Zhang's body was nowhere to be found. And just as investigators were running out of ideas, Zhang's sister, Zhang Yan, approached the police. She says she had a dream, and in it, her brother spoke to her, describing exactly where he was buried. West, along the railway line, south of the tracks. The police didn't believe in supernatural clues, but to comfort the grieving sister, they sent a team to look. And what they found stunned everyone. In a patch of disturbed earth along the railway, buried nearly 2 meters deep, was the body of Zhang Yongchen. 13 stab wounds covered his torso, including one piercing his heart. He had been killed the very night he disappeared. But the revelation of the dream shook the case. Police even wondered if Zhang Yan herself was involved. I mean, after all, how could she have known the burial site so precisely? But at just 1.56 meters tall and frail, She couldn't have dug such a massive grave, let alone carry her brother's 100-kilogram body. And attention turned back to the villagers surrounding him. Soon, secrets began to spill. Zhang Yongchen had been romantically involved with Lu Xiaolin, his business partner. But Lu was already married to a railway worker named Gu Dehai. And before Zhang, Lu had another lover, a man named Han Zhigang. This wasn't just a murder, it was a tangled web of obsession and betrayal. At first, suspicion fell on Lu's husband, Gu Dehai. As a railway worker, he knew the area very well and could have buried the body by the tracks. But the evidence didn't match, and Gu Dehai insisted that he had no motive, and even considered Zhang a friend. And then another figure emerged. Han Zhigang, Lu's ex-lover, possessive, jealous, and furious that Lu had moved on to Zhang. And just after Zhang's body was discovered, Han conveniently vanished. And police pressed harder. They discovered that Han had borrowed a villager's wheelbarrow on the very night of the murder, claiming that he needed to move sand, and when the wheelbarrow returned, it had been scrubbed spotless. And after running tests, it revealed tiny traces of blood, Zhang Yongchen's blood. And then came the final piece. In Han's yard, hidden inside a plastic bag beneath a bathtub, police found 2 knives still stained with Zhang's blood. And with nowhere left to run, Han Zhigang confessed. On June 11, 2008, Han confronted Zhang as he left Lu Xiaolin's house, and enraged, he attacked him with a knife. A violent struggle followed. Zhang fought back, tearing his shirt in the process, but in the end, he was stabbed 13 times and collapsed near the sand pile, and Han used a wheelbarrow to escort the body to the railway and then proceeded to bury him deep into the ground. It was pure jealousy, nothing more, nothing less. But the case itself became infamous because one of the most haunting details of the case was a dream. Zhang's sister, whether by chance or intuition or something beyond explanation, pointed directly to his grave, and her brother was finally laid to rest. Most murders are solved by evidence, others by confession, but this one was somehow solved by a dream. In 2014, in Zhaoyan City, China, a McDonald's became the scene of one of the most disturbing crimes caught on surveillance. A murder carried out in front of families, children, and customers, all by a group who believed they were fighting evil spirits. It was the evening of May 28th. Wu Xiaoyan, 37 years old, a salesperson who worked at a nearby clothing store. After work, she was waiting at a McDonald's for her family to arrive. Around 9 p.m., a group of 6 people entered, a mix of adults and even one teenager. But they weren't there to order food. Instead, they started preaching to customers, telling them about their religious beliefs. But it didn't just stop there. They began demanding everyone's cell phone numbers, claiming they needed them for future contact. And when Wu refused, not once, but twice, they turned on her. The group shouted that she was an evil spirit, and then, in front of the entire restaurant, they began attacking her, chairs, mops, and their feet. The beating was merciless, and anyone who tried to intervene was threatened with the same fate. and the CCTV cameras recorded everything. Customers backed away in fear as Wu was beaten to death in a full public view. When police finally arrived, they arrested all 6 attackers. The Chinese government quickly reported that the killers were members of the Eastern Lightning cult, also known as the Church of Almighty God. It's a controversial Christian-inspired sect founded in the 1990s, which has been long accused by the state of being a dangerous cult. Eastern Lightning, or the Church of Almighty God, is a Christian-inspired group founded in China in the 1990s. According to the group, Christ has returned, but in the form of a Chinese woman, and their followers must embrace her teachings. And the government labels this as an evil cult. And the thing is, this cult isn't even new to controversy. Over the years, authorities have accused Eastern Lightning of forced conversations, financial exploitation, domestic abuse, and harassment. In some rural areas, reports say they apply high-pressure tactics on families to join or donate. In the context of the McDonald's killing, the official narrative claims that the 6 attackers came from a dissident or extreme subgroup within Eastern Lightning. Maybe not fully under the church's central control, but their actions align with some of the more radical cult beliefs, rejecting non-believers as evil spirits, demanding submission, as in phone numbers or contact, and enforcing their doctrine violently. And the attackers were put on trial. The footage, the witnesses, and the confessions all made it impossible to deny what happened. 2 of the group, including the ringleaders, were sentenced to death and executed in 2015. The others received long prison sentences. And in the aftermath, the case became one of the most infamous cult crimes in modern China. It sparked raids, mass arrests, and a crackdown on the Church of Almighty God. The Zhaoyan McDonald's murder remains a disturbing reminder of how belief, warped into fanaticism, can erupt into violence in the most ordinary places. It's a case where surveillance didn't just capture an image, it captured an entire ideology, a belief system that blurred the line between faith and delusion. And it showed the world of how truly terrifying it is when a group convinces themselves that killing isn't murder, that it's salvation. On the Chinese internet, scandals come and go, but few have ever reached the scale or the strangeness of Sister Hong. A figure who looked like a woman, who spoke like one, who lured in hundreds of men. But behind the wig and the mask wasn't a sister at all. It was a man who spent years recording, deceiving, and profiting off a secret empire, private videos. And the story is how one disguised figure fooled thousands, destroyed lives, and left behind a digital scar so disturbing, the Chinese press called it the viral event of the year. The story begins with an online profile. A woman caked in white makeup, thick red lipstick, sometimes even hiding behind a surgical mask. She called herself Sister Hong. And at first glance, nothing about her profile screamed danger. She was just another face on dating apps and chat groups. But Hong's appeal didn't lie in beauty. It laid in curiosity. Her look was unsettling, almost uncanny, and yet, men still messaged her. Many even agreed to meet. When they arrived, they found rules, strange ones. She didn't accept cash for her services, and instead, men were told to bring items, a watermelon, a basket of vegetables, sometimes even half-used cooking oil. And it wasn't random, it was actually a cover. By avoiding financial transactions, Sister Hong left no paper trail, no receipts, no bank transfers, and nothing to tie her encounters to the law. But the strangest rule of all was the lights. The men weren't allowed to switch them off. Whenever someone tried, Sister Hong would calmly get up and flick them back on. And they didn't know why, but she did, because every moment was actively being recorded. Behind those bright lights, hidden cameras were installed around the apartment. Men came and went, unaware their faces, their bodies, and their secrets were being preserved on hard drives. And for years, nothing leaked. Sister Hong operated quietly. Clips were distributed in closed groups, sometimes on Telegram, sometimes sold directly to paying subscribers. $20 a month for access. Private chats buzzing with new uploads. The demand was huge, and so were the numbers. By mid-2025, Hong had allegedly recorded encounters with well over 1,000 men. Some came back repeatedly, and one man was nicknamed Four Seasons Brother because he returned once per season. The entire operation was a hidden world until one subscriber broke the silence. And one day, almost the entire archive was leaked. Hundreds of hours of uncensored footage, faces clearly visible. And within days, it spread across Chinese social media like a wildfire. The reaction was explosive. Suddenly, coworkers, friends, and even family members recognized the men in the videos. Husbands were caught cheating, boyfriends were exposed. And one TikToker with over 1 million followers was unmasked when viewers noticed his eyebrows matched perfectly with the man in the footage. Another was outed to his fiancée. Their engagement was instantly called off. And the fallout was completely merciless. Lives were ended overnight, and the internet wasn't forgiving. Some viewers mocked the victims. Others turned them into memes. And as their humiliation spread, so too did the legend of Sister Hong. By July 2025, the scandal wasn't just trending, it was everywhere. The hashtag top Chinese platforms. Memes spread internationally. People dressed up as Sister Hong, wearing wigs and masks, dancing in TikTok parodies. And even brands tried to cash in. And for many, it became a bizarre, collective joke. But for the men exposed, hundreds of them, it was no joke at all. Their privacy was completely gone, their reputations were ruined. And what made it worse was the revelation of who Sister Hong really was. Because Sister Hong was no woman. Beneath the wig and makeup was Zhao, a 38-year-old man from another province. And for years, he kept his disguise intact. But the videos revealed subtle hints, stiff body language, strange movements, a voice that sometimes slipped. And the illusion cracked. Speculation ran wild. Was he actually this old? Was he hiding a disguise? Or was the disguise just a cover for something more sinister? And by now, rumors overshadowed reality. But police were about to settle the question. On July 6, 2025, Nanjing police announced the arrest. The suspect was confirmed, a 38-year-old man named Zhao. He was charged with secretly filming and distributing obscene content. But by then, the internet had already mythologized him as Red Uncle. Some swore he infected men with HIV, although police stressed the claims were exaggerated. And others clung to the viral number, 1,691 men. Officials suggested that the real count was far lower, but the damage was already done. In the public image, Sister Hong had already become a monster of legend. But after the arrest, police actually revealed another disturbing possibility. After the rumors spread, it came out that Sister Hong might have actually been HIV positive. and if true, the consequences would be catastrophic. And for many, most people's life were completely ruined. And the tragedy was that many of these men never knew they were being recorded, that they had been lured in by deception, only to have their faces plastered across the internet for millions to gawk at. But as we all know, the internet moves fast, and within weeks, the memes slowed down. New scandals replaced Sister Hong in the trending feed. But for the victims, the consequences remained permanent. Their faces, once anonymous, are still floating online. And for some, the looming possibility of infection is a shadow they can't escape. And as for Zhao, the man who was behind the makeup, wigs, and mask, his story is still unfinished. He could spend the rest of his life behind bars, or even worse. And in the end, the Sister Hong saga isn't just about deception or scandal, a reminder of how quickly the internet can transform tragedy into entertainment, and how, once it does, there's no way back. Live streams are supposed to connect us. They're windows into someone's life, meant for laughter, advice, and entertainment. But in China, in the fall of 2021, one broadcast didn't connect, it trapped. A live stream where viewers became participants, and tragedy unfolded in real time. Lu Xiaomiao, a 23-year-old fashion influencer with over 600,000 followers on Douyin, China's version of TikTok. And to her audience, she was upbeat, smiling, playful. But off-screen, she was fighting severe depression. She had been hospitalized for more than 2 months earlier that year. And in her own words, "I appear to be happy, but this is all for show. I hope everyone will be happy when they see my videos, and will see that I am happy too, but I cannot hold on anymore." Hours before her final stream, she posted a video calling it "probably my last," and thanked her fans for their company. On October 14th, 2021, Lu went live. She held a bottle, mixed with pesticide, in a drink. Some viewers urged her to stop, but others did the exact opposite, egging her on with comments like, "Drink it quickly. There's no urine in the bottle. Do it if you're gonna do it." And she swallowed it on stream. And even as the chat scrolled, she herself called the ambulance after ending the broadcast. Doctors tried to save her, but it was already too late. Her family said the trolls in the chat pushed her over the edge. Others speculated it was connected to her breakup with an ex, but her relatives insisted that this wasn't the reason. One friend claimed that Lu did not intend to end her life, that it was an act that was staged to get her ex-boyfriend's attention. But once the comments encouraged her, she went through with it. The screenshots went viral. A young woman holding poison, while strangers type insults and dares. It's a perfect storm of vulnerability and cruelty. The audience's jeering turned her pain into entertainment. And after Lu's cremation in Shandong, her tragedy took an even darker turn. Her ashes were stolen. A funeral home worker, a hearse driver, and a local undertaker formed what police later called a bone ash supply chain. They swapped her remains and tried to sell them into an underground practice still thriving in parts of China, which is called a ghost marriage. Ghost marriages date back to the Shang dynasty, and the belief is pretty simple, but very disturbing. An unmarried soul is restless. A young man, buried alone, could bring misfortune to his family. And to fix this, relatives arrange a marriage with the body, or even just the ashes of a young woman. A live stream, where strangers urged her on. A cremation, where her ashes were stolen for profit. In life and in death, Lu was consumed. And that's what makes her story one of the most darkest tragedies on the Chinese internet.